In 1977, a three-person submersible descended to the floor of the Pacific Ocean near the Galápagos Islands to look at rocks. The submersible was Alvin, operated by the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution and owned by the U.S. Navy. It had been commissioned in 1964 and named after Alvin, the man whose idea it was. The expedition was geological. Along mid-ocean ridges, tectonic plates pull apart and new seafloor is made. The team expected to find hot water leaking out of the young crust. That was the hypothesis, and it was correct. What they were not expecting was what was living around it. At about 2.5 kilometers down, in permanent darkness, on a barren volcanic plain, they found warm water around 20 degrees Celsius, venting from cracks, and crowded around it, an ecosystem. Clams the size of dinner plates, crabs, mussels, and enormous worms in white tubes with blood-red plumes standing out into the water like flowers. To understand why this was so shocking, you need to know the rule it broke. Every ecosystem anyone had ever studied ran, ultimately, on sunlight. Plants and algae capture light and turn it into sugar. Everything else eats the plants, or eats something that ate the plants. That is the whole architecture of life on this planet, as it was understood in 1977. Below about 1,000 meters, there is no useful light at all. Deep-sea organisms were assumed to be living on scraps, a slow fall of dead material from the sunlit surface called marine snow. Marine snow is thin food. It supports a deep sea that is very sparsely populated. Small animals, widely spaced, living slowly. And then this. Around the vents, the density of organisms is 10,000 to 100,000 times greater than on the surrounding seafloor, not slightly richer. An oasis, in the most literal sense, a crowded, thriving, competitive community in total darkness, kilometers below anything that had ever seen the sun. The question was immediate and enormous. What are they eating? The answer had been proposed, in principle, nearly 90 years earlier. The microbiologist Sergei Winogradsky had suggested that organisms could get their energy from chemistry rather than light. The process is called chemosynthesis. Instead of using light energy to build sugars, you use the energy stored in chemical bonds. And at these vents, the chemical of choice is hydrogen sulphide. Hydrogen sulphide is the rotten egg gas. It is highly toxic to most known organisms, including us, because it attacks the machinery cells used to process oxygen. Vent fluids are rich in it, and at the vents, chemoautotrophic bacteria and archaea use it as fuel, building organic matter out of that toxic chemistry and forming the base of the entire food chain. Those bacteria grow into thick mats, which attract small grazing animals, which attract larger ones. Snails, shrimp, crabs, tube worms, fish, octopuses, a complete food web built on poison instead of light. At about the same time as the discovery, a graduate student named Colleen Cavanaugh proposed the key step for the largest animals there, that bacteria oxidizing sulfur could be living inside the tube worms themselves. She was right, and the anatomy that follows from it is one of the strangest things in zoology. The giant tube worm is called Riftia pachyptila. The name refers to the rift that made its home, and to its thick, feather-like plume. It was first encountered in 1977 at the Galápagos Rift. They reach 3 meters long, with bodies 4 centimeters across, in tubes of chitin that can take years to decompose. An adult Riftia has no mouth, no digestive system, no anus. It does not eat, in any sense we would recognize. Instead, most of its body is filled with an organ called the trophosome, a spongy tissue that houses symbiotic bacteria and granules of sulfur. About 285 billion bacteria are found per ounce of tube-worm tissue. The red plume is the intake. It is packed with blood vessels, and its color comes from haemoglobin, the same molecule that makes your blood red. But this haemoglobin does something yours cannot. It binds hydrogen sulfide and oxygen at the same time, carries both, and is not poisoned by the sulfide. The plume absorbs both from the water. The blood carries them down to the trophosome, the bacteria use them to make carbohydrates, and the worm feeds by digesting the bacteria once they reach a certain size. It farms its own food inside its body, out of a gas that would kill you. The chemistry gets more remarkable the closer you look. Riftia needs nitrate for building its tissues, and it concentrates nitrate in its blood to 100 times the level in the surrounding seawater. How it withstands and concentrates nitrate to that degree is, in the plain words of the literature, still unknown. Vents are also low in oxygen. Under those conditions, Riftia can produce hydrogen sulfide itself after about a day, and then binds that sulfide to its hemoglobin and expels it, to avoid poisoning its own cells. Now, the part that upends what you expect from deep-sea life. Animals down there are usually slow, low metabolism, long lives, patient. Riftia is the opposite. Its enzyme activity, glycolysis, the citric acid cycle, electron transport, resembles that of shallow water animals, implying a metabolism far faster than the deep sea normally allows. It has the fastest growth rate of any known marine invertebrate. Colonies have been observed to settle a new site, reach sexual maturity, and grow to 1.5 meters in length in under 2 years. Their tubes grow 10 to 85 centimeters a year, and a patch of them around a vent can span tens of meters. That speed makes sense once you understand the constraint. A vent is temporary. The plumbing shifts, the flow stops, and the oasis dies. Everything living there is racing a clock. So, the community is organized around competition for flow. Riftia needs high water flow, high temperature, and high sulphide. Its neighbors want different things. The giant clams prefer low flow and low temperature. The mussels are flexible and grow anywhere from the edge of the field to directly on the tube, worms own tubes. There is even a succession. A smaller tube worm, Tevnia, may prepare a new site and make it suitable for Riftia to arrive later, the deep-sea equivalent of the first weeds on bare ground. And the animals themselves adjust. A worm can modify the top and base of its tube to reposition itself as the colony gets crowded, keeping its plume in the flow. Riftia will not colonize every vent. It prefers sites producing considerable sulphide and tolerates temperatures up to about 54 degrees Celsius, while the ambient water 2 meters away sits near freezing. The 1977 vents were warm, around 20 degrees. 2 years later, on the East Pacific Rise, Alvin found something else entirely. During the Rise expedition in 1979, scientists from Scripps Institution of Oceanography, diving in Alvin, discovered vents at 380 degrees Celsius, at 21 degrees north. They looked like industrial chimneys pouring out black smoke, so they were called black smokers, and the name stuck. The smoke is not smoke. It is minerals. Vent water carries dissolved metals from the crust. When it hits near freezing seawater, sulfides of iron, copper, and zinc crash out of solution as a cloud of black particles. The same process builds the chimney. Minerals precipitate around the jet and stack upward. Vent growth of about 30 centimeters a day has been recorded. 30 centimeters a day. Some of these chimneys reach 60 meters, the height of a 20-story building built out of dissolved rock in the dark. One structure near Oregon, nicknamed Godzilla, rose to 40 meters before it fell over in 1996. The temperatures at these vents run to genuinely peculiar physics. Water emerges anywhere from 60 degrees Celsius up to as high as 464. It does not boil because of pressure. 2 or 3 kilometers down, the weight of water above is enormous, and it keeps that fluid liquid at temperatures that would flash to steam instantly at the surface. Push far enough and something stranger happens. Above its critical point, water is neither liquid nor gas. It is a supercritical fluid with properties between the two. For pure water, the critical point is 375 degrees at 218 atmospheres. For seawater, salt pushes it higher, 407 degrees, at a depth of about 2,960 meters. And several vents are above that line. A site called Sister Peak briefly injected fluid at 464 degrees. Nearby, Turtle Pits vents at 407 above the critical point for its salinity. The deepest known hydrothermal site, BB in the Cayman Trough, about 5,000 meters down, shows sustained supercritical venting at 401 degrees. Whether that matters for mineral deposits, chemical fluxes, or biology is, honestly, not yet known. Vents are found across the world's oceans now, at an average depth of around 2,100 meters. The most northerly cluster, 5 chimneys, called Loki's Castle, was found in 2008 at 73 degrees north, between Greenland and Norway. And they matter to the whole ocean. Vents emit iron, manganese, copper, zinc, cobalt, nickel, and more. Their plumes rise until they are neutrally buoyant, then spread sideways, potentially over thousands of kilometers. Iron is often the limiting nutrient for plankton in the open ocean, so chimneys in the dark, feeding sulfur bacteria, are also fertilizing the sunlit surface thousands of kilometers away. Then, on the 4th of December 2000, a different kind of vent field was found, and it changed which questions people asked. It sits on the Atlantis Massif, an undersea mountain roughly the size of Mount Rainier, where the Mid-Atlantic Ridge meets the Atlantis Transform Fault. It was found by Alvin and a remotely operated vehicle on a 34-day cruise. They called it the Lost City, and the name is fair. Its chimneys are pale carbonate towers, some of them enormous, standing in clusters on a shelf around 750 to 900 meters down. It is not driven by magma. It is driven by a chemical reaction between seawater and the rock of the Earth's mantle, a process called serpentinization. When water reaches those rocks, it changes them, and in doing so, it produces hydrogen and methane without any biology involved at all. That is the sentence that made this site famous. Here is a place where the planet spontaneously makes the simple molecules life is built from, using only rock and water. which makes it a prime location for investigating the origin of life on Earth and on other planets like it. The field is old. Radiocarbon dating of its oldest chimney deposits puts it at more than 120,000 years, though that is much younger than the massif beneath it, which may be 2 million years old. It has been visited repeatedly by American and French expeditions, by remotely operated vehicles, with live video streamed back to universities on shore. In 2018, a cruise nicknamed Return to the Lost City brought back many of the original Discovery team 18 years on to sample the vent fluids and hunt for the energy sources that microbial life there is using. And the search continues. In 2023, a research vessel deployed a new in-situ methane sensor to look for more Lost City-like activity along the mid-Atlantic ridge and found new black smoker vents. Because we have barely looked. The deep ocean floor is the largest habitat on this planet, and the fraction of it anyone has ever seen up close is vanishingly small. So, does life at hydrothermal vents really run without the sun? The honest answer is, almost. And the exception is interesting. The energy is entirely geological, but many of the animals down there still breathe oxygen, and nearly all the free oxygen in the ocean was put there by photosynthesis at the surface. So the food chain is independent of sunlight, the respiration, for many species, is not. Some of the organisms are anaerobic and need no oxygen at all. It is a mixed picture, and the mixed picture is the true one. These communities are ancient. The oldest confirmed record of a modern-style vent community comes from the Figueroa sulphide, in the early Jurassic of California, laid down while dinosaurs walked above. And they carry a piece of evidence that goes beyond vents entirely. Over 300 new species have been discovered at hydrothermal vents, many of them sister species to others in vent fields far away. It has been proposed that a single vent biogeographic region once existed in the eastern Pacific until the North American plate overrode the mid-ocean ridge and split it. The barrier began the divergence of the species on either side. The convergent evolution seen between separate, isolated vent fields, the same solutions, arrived at independently, is regarded as major support for natural selection and for evolution as a whole. Then there is the biggest claim attached to these places, and it deserves care. Hydrothermal vents have been hypothesized to be a significant factor in the origin of life itself. The case is that vent conditions have been shown to support the synthesis of molecules important to life, and that alkaline vents like the Lost City or those rich in supercritical carbon dioxide may be especially conducive. Those porous chimneys are natural reaction vessels, countless tiny compartments, steep chemical gradients across their walls, and a continuous supply of hydrogen, a plausible place for chemistry to become metabolism. It is a compelling case. It is also not settled. The origin of life is a widely debated topic with many conflicting viewpoints, and vents are one strong candidate among several. What makes the vent case interesting is not that it is proven. It is that it is testable, and that we can go and look at the reaction happening today. And that leads somewhere unexpected off this planet entirely. Active hydrothermal vents are thought to exist on Jupiter's moon, Europa, and Saturn's moon Enceladus, both of which have liquid water oceans beneath ice, in contact with rock. And it is speculated that ancient hydrothermal vents once existed on Mars, which is why 1977 matters so much. Before it, the search for life elsewhere was, implicitly, a search for sunlit worlds with something like plants. Afterwards, the requirement changed. Water, rock, chemical disequilibrium, and time. Sunlight is optional, which puts a great many more places on the list, including moons, hundreds of millions of kilometers from the sun, where the surface temperature is far below freezing and the seafloor is warm. It is worth remembering how this happened. Nobody set out to overturn the foundations of biology. A geological expedition went to look at hot water coming out of new seafloor and found clams. 10,000 to 100,000 times the density of life on the surrounding seafloor, 3 kilometers down, in absolute darkness, running on hydrogen sulphide, and nobody had any idea it was there. The largest habitat on Earth had an entire mode of life in it that we had not imagined, and we found it by accident, in one dive in 1977.